I think one of the things that I do is read it all the way through first, just to sort of get the whole picture. And then I might set it aside for a little bit and come back to it, just with maybe it's the way that I work, but I need to sort of read and then process and think through it a little bit. I'm looking for usually sort of, does the article match the guidelines? That's the sort of number one thing to look for first. And then I'm looking for a really clear argument, phrased clearly somewhere near the very beginning of the article, to say what this article is going to argue, and maybe methodology, foundation, who they're in conversation with scholarly, in the scholarly world. So those are really sort of main things that I'm looking for, because sometimes you can read an article and those things aren't there, or maybe you can see something that's sort of missing in terms of methodology or scholars that should be in conversation with and might not be, things like that. So I often will, using Microsoft Word or, whatever sort of PDF program that is being used, I often will make anonymous comments in the article itself. I find that an easier way to respond if the journal will allow a submission of a document in that way. So I'll read through it, turn my settings to anonymous or like reviewer, and then make comments throughout. And then I open a new document and sort of will make a paragraph statement to the editors, to the author. I personally always try to lead with positives. I do this with my students as well. Like find the good in the article and try something that I can celebrate, and then offer some, I hope, helpful, suggestions for improvement. And then the decision that I'm going to suggest, whether that's accept with revisions or revise and resubmit or reject.
Leading with positive feedback where possible is really important. And yeah, it's great when you can mark up a document. If I'm gonna offer critical feedback, I try to give specifics about things that the authors could do. Read, things they may want to consider reading, or specific places in the text, if you're not marking up a document where they might want to add or change something. For our journal, and I think in lots of other contexts for journals, we often encounter scholarship from people who maybe, for example, writing in English as an additional language, and the arguments might be there, but there might need to be some changes in the language that's being used in order to improve clarity, right? And so I think we can serve a role in providing constructive feedback there if we've got time and capacity to do it.
And I've served as that person too more recently, and that was such a sort of meaningful way to contribute to the journal. And this particular author that I was working with didn't have library access, and I was able to download articles and just email them to this person and be like, hey, here's some more recent stuff that they didn't have access to. So there's a lot of ways that we can help even in those situations, and taking that time is important.
It's called peer review. It's not called jerky senior scholar review, right? And so, how do we, if we approach reviewing as thinking like we're looking at work by our peers and thinking about how we mentor or co-mentor each other, right? Like I'm learning from scholars writing that I haven't encountered before, and I also maybe can contribute in supporting the development of their work, right? And so remembering the peer part, I think, is really important.